Dear Gaza, I'm sorry. Dear Beirut, I still love you like an arsonist. Dear Venice, when that glass blower put his lips to the heat and I followed his breath into an ornament, I understood grace. Dear New Orleans, you gave me swelter and melody and staircase. After the longest winter of my life, you are where I forgave myself. Dear Boston, I found the bird already dead, crooked nests scattering the pavement, and for days, all I saw was that constellation of bones. Dear Ayanapa, I cannot hear your name without thinking war and ship and 2 moons before coastline. Dear Tripoli, it was whiplash. It was awful month. It was season of flinching. I won't be coming back. Dear Rome, whenever I think of my future self, she's always walking your piazza wearing something yellow. Dear Wichita, I remember the boy band songs on the radio, the car rides through the backbone of your highway. I remember cornfields and pregnant sky and always a thunderstorm. Dear Gaza, I'm sorry. Dear Ramallah, thank you for the applause. Thank you for the seltzer water, the tabla player, the 3 a.m. tomato and bread. Thank you for the balcony. Dear Dubai, I forgot a scarf, a silver ring, a tube of lipstick, and courage to make a mistake. I found the ring, the rest you may keep. Dear Aleppo, forgive me my uneaten rice, my litter, my abundance of light bulb. Forgive me my bed soft and warm even in January. Dear Baghdad, you still make me cry. Dear Doha, with you I am always dreaming of starlit eels and honey water and birds bathing in fluorescent sky. I miss those colors. Dear Istanbul, marry me. Dear Dallas, I bought polished pebbles from your mall kiosks and pretended I was Aladdin, turning the soil over and gasping. Dear Gaza, I'm sorry. Dear Beirut, you are cherry end of cigarettes. You are pulse and tunnel, freckles and siren. How can you fit so much? Dear Norman, Oklahoma, no one calls me Holly anymore. I blinked, slept, woke, wanting fairy tale hair for breakfast, loving boys with quarterback hands and suburban smiles. Dear Las Vegas, I'd really rather not. Dear Brooklyn, I came to you tumbled and spun. I came to you with 62 books and the mistakes I'd gathered like splinters. You showed me where to sit. Dear Dublin, someday. Dear Damascus, nothing is as dangerous as an unlit match. You taught us that. Dear Paris, by beauty I meant that bridge, those clouds and the legs my brother and I dangled over the water. Dear Jerusalem, only you know what I am capable of. Dear London, when I didn't speak, it wasn't because I was ungrateful. I was trying not to cry. Dear Gaza, I'm sorry. Dear Manhattan, I left a part of myself in that nightclub, like some paper crane with a beating heart. She is rumpled and sleeping. Do not wake her. Dear Bangkok, your fruit I ate salted, bare fingers peeling back skin for shrines of gold and sugar. Dear Beirut, I bruise as easily as you do. We are both anemic veins and unbrushed hair and survivor's guilt. Dear Gaza, when I come to you, it will be summer, scorching sun and a music to the shoreline. You'll ask me what took so long, and I'll tell you where I've been. Thank you. Thank you. I am 26 years old, and I've lived in a little over a dozen cities around the world throughout my life, and I've done a fair amount of traveling as well. And I think possibly because of that, I feel like I develop these very intense attachments to places, and I have tumultuous relationships with places, and I fall in love with them. And over the past year, I've come across a number of really beautiful poems and spoken word pieces that are done in the format of love letters, right? So a love letter to a lover or a series of lovers, and I thought it might be interesting to try that in my case with cities instead of people. I'm a member of the Palestinian diaspora, and some of the moves that I did when I was younger with my family were voluntary, and some of them were a result of the political situation in the Middle East. And as a child, it was difficult to constantly be uprooted, to constantly feel like I had to get used to different cities and different places and different ways of doing things, and certainly having to navigate new cultures. And I think that one of the things that I did, or two actually, was reading a lot and writing a lot. And I loved storytelling, but also I think there was a bit of escapism in it, right? I would delve into these lives of characters that weren't real, into these fictional worlds, and I would create them. And at the same time, when I look back on it, in retrospect, it makes perfect sense, because these are two activities that are not at all location specific, right? Like you can pick up a book or a pen theoretically anywhere. And for someone like me, when I was younger, I would have these favorite books, and I would always come back to them. And I feel like there's something about that, about returning to a favorite book or a favorite activity, that is in and of itself an act of homecoming. When I got a little bit older, I feel like my interest turned outwards. So I stayed really interested in, the lives of these fictional characters, but I was also becoming aware of the people around me and becoming very interested and fascinated with the stories of strangers. And so that resulted in what is still my very, big love of people watching, right? So I love going to subways or cafes or malls or airports and just watching people, wondering what their stories are. And I realize that spoken aloud, it sounds borderline creepy, but I think that for me it was really more about wondering what it is that brought this particular person to this particular place. So again, the intersection between the person and the place. And I do think that this is in part what led me to the field of psychology, which is what I'm studying right now. I'm studying to be a clinician, a therapist, and I think that the overlap that exists between my work, whether it's more written-based or poetry-based or clinical, is this love of narrative, right? I believe in the power of stories. I believe in the power of voice. And for me, for whatever reason, a lot of the people that I meet or I work with, both in my professional world and personal world, tend to be people who feel marginalized. So they are people who identify themselves as feeling not part of the mainstream. So immigrants or prison inmates or refugees or minorities of whatever sort. And there's something about that experience that I think can be very lonely, and it's very disenfranchised. And so I've had the opportunity over the years to witness firsthand not only how healing writing and storytelling can be, but also how empowering it can be to give voice to your story and to be able to take authorship over your life. And for me, I think that's where communities come in, right? Because I think that communities have this incredible capacity to foster voice. I think that at the end of the day, our narratives are the intersection and the meeting point of the people we come into contact with, events, and the places where things happen. And in that sense, I believe that communities are as strong as their stories. And it works both ways, right? We keep communities alive through our storytelling, through our writing, through our painting, through our music, through all sorts of creative expression. We manage to keep communities alive, and not just the ones that we live in, but also, for a lot of us, the ones that we've left behind, or the ones that our parents have left behind, or our grandparents have left behind. And in that sense, I think that really becomes what makes community or cities or all of that stuff so powerful for me is the idea that they are the confluence of everything that we carry into them, everything that we bring into them. And I would love to invite you guys, to encourage you guys to think a little bit just about how, what are the places that you've lived in? What are the communities that you've been a part of? And how have you carried them with you elsewhere? How have they influenced your perception? And also, how have they influenced your narrative? And I would like to share one more piece with everyone that is sort of my take on that question or that idea. He calls a river a lake. Says, look how this galaxy is all echo. Look how the sky is all dome. Says, I like your curls. Where are you from? He says, I like your curls. Says, with hair like that, you must know some alchemy, some desert, some romance of ash. Says, with hair like that, you must know water. Where are you from? He says, what's your Valentine? I say dust. Dust, because I believe. Dust, because Mama gave a shoreline. Baba lost a key because we could have been harp unstrung or beatbox brethren warming our hands on the sulfur of song. Dust, because women still float lifeless like flowers in rivers and no one says stop. No one says remember the shipwrecked. No one says they torched the library in Baghdad. Remember the flame. No one says grandma loved mint and grandpa loved paper. Dust, because I learned cities like sculpture. I sculpture against their neon bodies. I scatter lips, hips, hands, breath. Dust, because it might be air and dirt and tide, but it is also light and grass and moon. Dust, because maps are trickery. Because I know men who carried all of Ramallah, Gaza, Jenin on their back and unflowered the boxes in tiny Midwestern backyards. Dust, because they found mosques, even in backwater creeks, sat practicing the lilt, the drop, the roll, valley roll of each letter of faith. And from home, they brought nothing of the copper teapots, the jasmine trees, the sunbirds brought nothing but the dust they carried on their skin. He says, loving a city doesn't count, which is like saying that rocks don't have memory, or a hillside cratered with bombs is not as human as lullaby. Says, loving a city doesn't count, which is like saying that fires don't remember the hands that lit them because a city will break your hearts. He says, what's your Valentine? I say dust. He says, what's your Valentine? I say dust. He calls a river a lake. Says, look how the sea is all fossil. Look how this planet is all storm. Says, I like your curls. Where are you from? He says, where are you from? Where you from? Where you are from is where you break or return or forgive or dance or kiss, where you give dust, take dust back, where you remember. Remember. History sheds land as shamelessly as clothing, but I remember because grandma gave stone with that mint and grandpa kept a typewriter, and I have always been from the dust they carried on their skin. Thank you, guys.